Hello and welcome to the session on leadership in educational management and administration. Introduction to educational leadership. In the previous unit, we have discussed the importance of having an effective educational management in place to achieve the educational goals of any institution. And to make any management program a success, what it takes is a strong leadership. In this unit, we are going to discuss educational leadership in detail and how the leadership can make educational management more effective. Educational leadership definitions. John Berkty, in his book Administration as Educational Leadership, points out that an educational leader is always trying to get others to accept his decisions or objectives, or encouraging them to join him in some common purpose. His skill, like that of any other leader, rests on his ability to make significant judgments and to encourage others to accept these judgments. Berkty suggests that there are three types of educational leaders: 1. The educational statesman, 2. the teacher, and 3. the administrator. The educational statesman presents his view objectively and factually, trying to persuade people around him or her to agree to his view. He or she tries to persuade people by appealing to their rationality using facts and objectivity. The teacher also tries the method of person. He or she may change the technique of influencing at a later stage of the leadership. An educational administrator has to provide a democratic leadership. The administrator needs to have a fair understanding of the group he or she is managing to offer a motivating and democratic leadership. The administrator should have a fair understanding of the dynamic of the team he is leading in order to prove himself or herself as a good leader. Distinguishing educational leadership from management. In fact, there are some scholars such as Helen Gunder who suggest that educational leadership is a term that in a way replaces educational administration or management. They also believe that the emergency of educational leadership replacing both administration and management indicates a paradigm shift in the sphere of education itself. However, there are some scholars and researchers who believe that these are two different concepts. Larry Cuban differentiates these two terms by stating that they can't be used interchangeably and that he associates leadership with change and management as a maintenance activity. Here is what he says about both leadership and management. By leadership, I mean influencing others' actions in achieving desirable ends. Leaders are people who shape the goals, motivations and actions of others. Frequently, they initiate change to reach existing and new goals. Leadership takes much ingenuity, energy and skill. Managing is the processing of maintaining efficiently and effectively current organizational arrangements. While managing well often exhibits leadership skills, the overall function is toward maintenance rather than change. I prize both managing and leading and attach no special value to either, since different settings and times call for varied responses. Tony Bush also associates leadership to values, while he believes management is about implementation or technical issues. Though scholars hold different opinion about management and leadership, they all agree that both these functions are vital to the smooth operations of an institution. The challenges and requirements presented before modern day educational institutions need effective implementation skills of a manager as well as the insights and visions of a leader. Educational leadership as influence. Many definitions of leadership point out that the key element of leadership is the process of influence. The concept of leadership revolves around the assumption that it involves a social influence process. an intentional influence injected by one person or group over another to streamline the activities and human relations in an educational organization. Larry Cuban's definition of educational leadership says that leadership then refers to people who bend the motivations and actions of others to achieving certain goals. It implies taking initiatives and risks. Thus, leadership is about exerting deliberate influence to attain a specific goal or outcome of a plan. Tony Bush, in his book Theories of Educational Management, refers to three chief aspects of educational leadership. Influence. As mentioned earlier, the concept central to leadership is influence, not authority. Though both these terms can be viewed as dimensions of power, the term influence is informal compared to authority, which is associated with positions such as principal or head teacher. And influence can be exercised by anyone in an organization, which means educational leadership is not necessarily directly linked to higher authorities, while management or administration are associated with power hierarchies. Intentional process. The process of influence is deliberate. A group or individual exert intentional influence to realize specific goals. Scope for distributed leadership. In educational leadership, mostly leadership is executed by a group which provides a scope for distributed leadership. This aspect of leadership portrays it as a flexible process potentially originating from any part of the school independent of formal management positions. Educational leadership. Positions taken by scholars in a paper, Critical Approaches to Leadership in Education, published in the Journal of Educational Enquiry, Volume 2, Number 2, 2001, Helen Gunder identifies 4 major positions taken by scholars who study and research on the area. They are instrumental, scientific, humanistic and critical. Below is an overview of these 4 positions on educational leadership. The instrumental position. In countries like the UK, the official policy positions on educational leadership is that of instrumental and scientific models. It is believed that the instrumental position offers models of effective systems and cultures designed to enable site-based performance management. Office holders or post holders are considered as leaders and the behaviors of effective leaders are described. The scientific position. The scientific position of leadership tries to map out the impact of head teachers as leaders on student learning outcome and on the team members' behaviors, functions and emotions. The scientific position is more concerned about generating statistical evidence about the link between policy and practice. Using the data, leadership attributes and skills can be measured and understood, and we can understand what skill and policies improve the outcome of students. This work has been extensively drawn upon official policy making. The humanistic position. The humanistic position is based on a narrative biographical epistemology using which head teachers exercise leadership in particular settings over time. The perceived realities of doing the job combined with how the tensions and dilemmas that are encountered and worked through in real time can be revealed and taken into account when carrying out activities to attain new goals. When an educational institution chose to adopt this position, the policy emphasis is on the immediacy of action than the longitudinal, and professional experiences narrated are too subjective and immeasurable to be of major use in the drive to improve standards. The critical position. This position offers the participants and the leaders with opportunities to reflect on what they do, are told to do and would like to do. This enables them to link their work with the larger picture outside of the immediacy of action. Thinking through the issues gives scope for interpretation and alternatives to the ways suggested by government or such authorities. Educational leadership, importance of values and vision. Leadership values. Educational leadership is linked to values. Any leadership should be grounded on personal and professional values. The character of the leader, his or her personal and professional values, self-awareness and emotional as well as moral capabilities are of greater importance in an educational management program. William Greenfield distinguished between values and rationality. Values lie beyond rationality. Rationality, to be rationality, must stand upon a value base. Values are asserted, chosen, imposed or believed. They lie beyond quantification, beyond measurement. Great leaders are aware of the clear sets of personal and educational values which are expected of them to fulfill their duties and their moral purposes for the school. However, the values cannot be always chosen by the leader. They are most of the time imposed by the government. But a true leader owns these values and takes great initiative in attaining the stipulated goals. Leadership and vision. Educational leaders are required to guide their institutions through the challenges posed by an ever-changing educational scenario. Curriculum standards, achievement benchmarks and other policy directives from many sources generate complicated and unpredictable challenges. And an education leader must respond to the increasing diversity in student characteristics and the challenges that are posed before him or her. And only leader with a vision can take the challenges head on. A skillful leader should also communicate the vision clearly and convincingly. He or she should encourage interactions with multiple stakeholders through participatory communication strategies. They frame issues in ways that lead to productive discussions and decision making. Vision is an integral part of effective leadership. Leaders are motivated to work hard when their professional pursuit becomes an extension of their personal vision for achieving a greater goal. Team members expect a leader to articulate his vision clearly and have a strategic plan in hand to achieve it. To inspire team members and to share his or her vision, a leader must be able to motivate them, spreading enthusiasm and positive attitude to each of the team members. Communication between the leader and the team must follow laterally as well as vertically within the institution so that everyone is aware of the vision and the strategies that are designed to achieve it. Major leadership practices. We can classify practices adopted by educational leaders into three broad categories. They are setting directions, developing people and nurturing the organization. Let us discuss these broad categories in detail. Setting directions. Setting directions for achieving goals include processes such as envisaging and articulating vision, setting high performance expectations and monitoring performances. Let us take a look into the process in detail. Envisaging and articulating a vision. As mentioned earlier, vision is an important component of leadership. A good educational leader will develop a vision that embodies the values and teaching. By developing and implementing a strategic plan, an educational leader motivates the team to achieve the goals. A leader also formulates shared meanings. As human resource usually base their actions on how they understand things, educational leaders help to create shared meanings and understandings to support the school's vision. In reality, inspiring leaders help an educational organization to become a professional learning community that supports the performance of both teachers and students. Setting high performance expectations. Conveying expectation quality and high performance is another important leadership practice. A leader can help others to see the challenging nature of the goal and can hone the skills of team members and bridge the gap between what needs to be achieved and what is presently being accomplished. Effective communication of high expectations help people see that what is being expected is in fact possible to achieve. Monitoring performance. Like a manager, an educational leader assesses how well the organization is performing and how is the team performing as a whole. The leader needs to be able to process and interpret the information in the right manner to monitor and evaluate the performances of the resources in the right way. Developing people. People are the backbone of any management activity, and effective educational leaders influence the development of human resources. Here are the activities involved in developing people. Offering intellectual stimulation. A good educational leader should be able to make people reflect and evaluate their assumptions about the goal they are set to achieve. A leader should be able to provide information and resources to help people see discrepancies between current and desired practices. It is the resourcefulness of the leader that a team requires to achieve any goal. Providing individualized support. In order to make an educational management program successful, it needs significant levels of change from the individuals involved in the activities. Leaders provide a structure that promotes changes and opportunities for individual learning and appropriate means for monitoring progress towards improvement. Setting examples. Good leaders set examples for staff and others to follow that are in line with the organization's values. By demonstrating desired actions, a leader enhances others' self-confidence and their capacity to change. Nurturing the organization. Developing an organization is important for the success of any educational leadership or management program. Making correct judgment of the situation in hand and bringing positive changes to organization structures are often associated with the qualities of a leader. Modifying organizational structure. Organizational structure is the framework within which people carry out their work. The structure can either enhance or hinder the performance of an individual. A good educational leader must be able to change the structure of administration accordingly. He or she should monitor and adjust the structural organization, including how tasks are assigned and performed, the use of time and space, the acquisition and allocation of equipment, supplies and other resources. Building collaborative processes. A good leader will provide the staff opportunities to participate in decision making process. By encouraging participation of the staff, the leader helps others to accomplish shared goals while addressing individual concerns. Providing instructional guidance. An educational leader needs to be ahead of best professional practices and foster conditions for professional growth. The stress should not be only on accountability or the need to set higher performance standard. A true leader should ensure that he or she is there to give the right guidance at the right time. Strategic planning. When educational organizations are required to have organizational improvement plans for accountability purposes, leaders must give importance to monitoring performance and developing concrete plans for improvement. Building powerful forms of teaching and learning. Leaders in highly diverse contexts be able to identify and implement new forms of teaching and learning that are appropriate and effective for the student community they serve. This process demands careful attention to developing curriculum content that is engaging and accessible. New forms of teaching methods coupled with assessment will ensure ambitious and equitable performance from students. Expanding the proportion of students' social capital. Students who come from different cultural and financial backgrounds possess different kinds of knowledge, value, preferences and behavior habits. They have acquired these knowledge and values from their interactions with their social network, and hence this kind of knowledge is sometimes known as forms of social capital. Every student's social capital becomes an educational asset when it helps him or her to perform learning tasks successfully. The value of social capital depends in part on what educational authorities choose to consider as educationally valuable. Knowledge and values generated by the linguistic, racial, religious or cultural diversity of a student's social network may be overlooked when in fact they hold considerable potential for influencing learning. To succeed with students who come from diverse background, teachers and others must understand that different forms of social capital are assets rather than deficits. A leader helps in establishing more positive relationships between educators, students and their families and communities. Challenges of educational leadership. One of the major challenges any educational leader faces is the question about balancing their leadership and managerial tasks in such a way that it takes the institution to new height of success. Coordinating the functions that are distributed across many formal and informal resources is the next big challenge an educational leader faces. Fostering diversity in an organization demands the persons with appropriately rich backgrounds, values and community connections challenge an educational leader has to tackle. Conclusion. Thus, it is important to have a strong educational leadership in places in order to ensure smooth operations of an institution. Efforts to build effective and strong educational leadership should be based on well documented and widely accepted knowledge about the already existing leadership. An educational leadership is considered most successful when it is focused on the improvement of teaching and learning. There are still many gaps in our knowledge about effective educational leadership. Let us hope that new studies and researches will bridge the gaps, improving and changing the academic and educational scenario. Let me summarize what we have discussed so far. This unit details the various aspects of educational leadership. It discussed various definitions of educational leadership and how it is different from management and administration. Most scholars identify education as influence which is intentional. Unlike management, in educational leadership, there is scope for distributed leadership. There are some scholars who hold the opinion that educational leadership has replaced both management and administration, suggesting that a paradigm shift is taking place in the education scenario. On the other hand, many scholars believe that educational leadership and management are two different concepts. According to them, management is all about implementing and maintaining, while leadership requires insights and vision. Values and visions are identified as important attributes of leaders. In the chapter, we classify practices adopted by educational leaders into three broad categories. They are setting directions, developing people and nurturing the organization. All these categories has subcategories which ranges from envisaging and articulating vision, evaluating, offering intellectual simulations, setting examples, changing organization structure to building powerful forms of teaching. The unit also throws a glimpse to the challenges an educational leader faces. Now, you can try to answer the questions given here. Number 1, what are the different positions taken by Helen Gunder on educational leadership? 2, educational leadership and management are different concepts. Do you agree? List your reasons. 3, what are the 3 activities adopted by an educational leader? 4. What are the activities involved in developing people? 5. What are the challenges faced by an educational leader? Now, you may go through the reference books given here. References: Educational Management, A Unified Approach of Education, written by Sharma S.L., published by Global India Publications, New Delhi in 2009. Educational Leadership and Management, Theory, Policy and Practice, written by Tony Bush and published by South African Journal of Education 27-3, 391-406, IN 2007. Thank you for watching this program. We can meet again with another topic. Have a nice day.